So the participants, good morning to all. The topic I picked is CFD and its applications of few solar energy based systems. Anyway, there are number of solar energy systems, solar thermal energy systems are working. But where I am working in this field, there are 3-4 topics I am working. So I have taken those topics as today's presentation. I hope I will complete the presentation within the prescribed time, and let me see. So first of all, we have to see uh, the solar flux which is reaching to the earth, and we are fortunate enough to get a good quantum of solar energy in Indian land. So that is one of the reason our states and our industries were developing number of plants, solar plants. So the state wise how they are executing the solar energy projects, that's I am listing here. You can see which state is first here. I think Karnataka is doing best. It's around 6,095 megawatt. Actually, it is 6,095 megawatt power plant is already, yeah, in megawatt. 6,095 megawatt power plant is already developed by Karnataka. And then who is the second? Second is Rajasthan. Rajasthan is doing fine. 3,226. And then third one is Andhra is doing fine. 3,085. And then who is the next? Tamil Nadu is doing next. So we are capturing the 5th place, I think. Karnataka first, Rajasthan second, Andhra third, 4th place. Tamil Nadu is 2,575 megawatt power is produced through the solar plants. And then the Gujarat is coming next only. So we are doing fine, better than the Gujarat. And like that, the remaining state, even Telangana also doing fine. Yeah, Telangana is 3,592. Oh, that is the second one. Rajasthan is the, yeah, Telangana is the second one. Tamil Nadu capturing the 5th place. So anyway, this is the present scenario of the solar energy plants installed in states. There were some states having the solar energy installation will be less. That is one of the reason their usage also less. You can see there are the Himachal Pradesh 22.68, Jammu and Kashmir 14.83, and even Arunachal Pradesh, it's a poor sunlight state having only 5.39 watts. But still, the other states are doing fine. That we should be proud on that, how the states were utilizing this free, abundant energy. So now we have to see how this solar energy will be used to run the thermal systems. The first system is solar dryer. Solar dryer. So where I am working on this area for past 10-15 years. So we will see what is solar drying first, or drying. What is meant by drying? In day-to-day life, we are drying number of products, including food products, building materials, textile, clay materials, paper, and then pharmaceuticals. There are number of items. Okay, so among that, the foodstuffs are consumed more energy to dry the foodstuffs. That's why this is one of the area where I am working on that. So usually the drying consists of two processes. One is by process 1 and another by process 2. The process 1, let us assume this rectangular object is a food product or any one product. Let's say even if it's a building material, then you can assume it's a brick material, brick. Initially, the moisture on the surface of the food product will be, or surface of the product will be removed. That is by process 1. Okay, when we are putting the object in the open air, initially the surface moisture will be eliminated. That is called a process 1. Once the surface moisture is eliminated, then the interior moisture will be diffused to the surface, diffused to the surface, that is called the process 2. Okay, from the surface again the moisture will be removed by process 1. That's why these two processes are involved in drying process or any type of drying process, including solar drying. And one cannot believe here, we are using up to 25% of the energy only for the drying applications. Okay, up to 25% of the energies. You can imagine how much energy we are consuming for drying applications. The reason is almost all the products are dried and then only we are using. Food product also, just now I told a number of other industries, including textile, nuclear waste, building, rubber industries. So this is one of the reason the more than 25% of the energy is consumed for drying applications. That's why this is one of the hot area even till date. And even the next 2-3 decades also, it's one of the hot area only. Because wherever we are consuming more energy, those things will be a hot research area, and that their place we need much investigations on that. And now we have to see the importance of drying. To prevent the growth and reproduction of microorganisms, we know that if it's a food product, if the moisture cannot be eliminated up to a particular level, then the food product will be unusable after 3-4 days, like a vegetable or fruits. If you keep the vegetable or fruits, sometimes within 3-4 days, it will be rotten. The reason is it has a high moisture content and there is a chance the outside air or the skin will be infected and then the entire product will be unusable. But if you are reducing the moisture level with a extreme level, with a required level, there is a chance the food product will be survived even more than 30 days also. This is one of the reason the big malls, the refrigerated malls, they are keeping the food product more than 30 days, though it is not good to consume. But in some of the way, we are safeguarding the food product. Even in our home also, we can enhance the lifetime of the product up to 10 to 15 days, our home refrigerator. Okay, so the next one is to make the product sufficiently strong and rigid. If it's a building material or some other paper or textile material, after drying only the product will be very strong and rigid. And to reduce the weight and volume of the material, this is one of the importance of drying. You cannot believe on that. If the food materials will be dried, then the moisture content will be eliminated up to 90%. That means only 10% of the initial moisture content is existing and remaining 90% moisture is removed. Then its weight and volume can be removed. Okay, 90% of the mass can be removed. Then it can be easily transportable because of this weight reductions. And then finally, to minimize the physical, chemical and nutritional changes, we need drying. So these are the drying. So you can see how where these drying applications are used in different industries. The first one is agricultural and food industry, which is one of the major industry consuming much energy for drying applications. But it's a solar energy is used, then the energy consumptions will be less. That means, the artificial energy or auxiliary energy usable is less because the solar energy is totally freely available. And then you can see the agricultural and food industry, there are number of food materials were dried. Few I listed here: potato, apple, cassava, green peas, mango, onion, fish, pumpkin, broccoli stems, barley, oats, coffee, black pepper, etc. Anyway, few only I listed here, but there are almost all the vegetables and fruits are dried nowadays. And you can find, there were a number of places you can find the dry fruits shops. Okay, almost all the fruits are dried, and even vegetables also nowadays coming with dried food products in packets. Okay, so there are much materials available in the literature. I have taken here, almost 10 materials are here. So almost all the materials we are using in our home, potato, apple, cassava. You know what is cassava? Can I interact with these participants? The participants also can unmute their audio and can interact with me. I don't know.
So
Hello.
participants can write their comments in the chat box, sir. I will be communicating with you.
Okay, not a problem. Okay. So the cassava is a yam which we are getting from the ground. We will in Tamil, if the Tamil participants are there, I will tell the Tamil name. It is Maravalli Kilangu, cassava. So it is dried. In my place, Kanyakumari district, we are drying the cassava. Anyway, wherever it is available, we are drying. Almost all the food products we are drying. And the next one is bio oil industry. So wherever there are some edible seeds or the edible oils were taken from the seeds after crushing the seeds. Those oils are used in food products like the normal oil which we are using, coconut oil, sunflower oil, palm oil, etc. And there are some non-edible oils also. There are some non-edible oils which is used to generate oil, and from that we can run the automobile vehicles, automobile engines, or even any other IC engines. So that is called bio oil industry. Drying of peanuts, sunflower seeds, soybeans, rapeseed, canola, coconut, etc. There are number of seeds are there. There are number of seeds are used to extract the oil. And so the bio oil industry also one of the case, because the seeds need to be properly dried before crushed, and then only we can extract the maximum a good quality of bio oils. So you can see on that the solar drying. I am giving one definition here. The solar drying is the process in which the ambient air is heated by solar energy and it is passed through the chamber where the sample is placed to dry. Okay, so inside the chamber we are keeping the food product. The food product need to be heated. So therefore the solar energy is allowed to pass inside on that. That's why the process is called solar drying. The hot air heats the sample and transfer the moisture from inside to the surface of the sample and then to the atmosphere. So whenever we will be heating, the food product will be heated initially. Any product, food product or any material will be heated, and then it is losing its moisture. Okay, that's why this the heat and mass transfer process is happening simultaneously. This is one of the reasons the drying is called as simultaneous heat and mass transfer process. Simultaneous heat and mass transfer process. Okay. So here I have mentioned three types of solar drying. One is open sun drying, the first picture. And the second one is direct solar drying. The third one is indirect solar drying. So we have to see what is that. The first one is open sun drying. Everyone is aware on that in the rural areas or even town also. The people are drying the food products, sometimes on the road or sometimes on the terrace. Okay, there are a number of food products we are drying. This is open sun drying. But you know what may be the limitations in the open sun drying. The disadvantages in the open sun drying. The food products are openly available, or it is directly exposed by the sunlight, or it is in open air. That is the reason the dust will be occupied on the food product. Sometimes the animals or bats will be wasting the food product. Okay, and another one major problem is if you are putting the food product in the open air, the food product will be losing its natural color. That means the color pale will be taken place. This is also one of the reasons, because whenever the customers will be purchasing the dried food products from the market, they will be checking the natural color of the product will be surviving in that or not. If the natural color will be there, then they are assuming that it's a good product. Anyway, it is a good product only, because if the color changes will be there, there is a chance the food product may be rotten and then it is dried. There is a chance. Okay, so that's why the color also one of the important factor that cannot be achieved in our open sun drying. Okay, so the disadvantages I told, one is the wastage by the animals and birds, and another one is the dust particles, and third one is the color changes. And the next one, the direct cabinet drying. Here, some of the problems were solved because here the food products is kept inside a chamber. So there is no chance of the dust product will be entering inside. So the food product will be free from dust. So that is one advantage from the OSD drying. And then animal and birds also will not be disturbing the food product. That is the second advantages. But the third one, that the color changes of the food product, that may not be possible here also in this direct solar drying also. Okay, so here also we are providing a solar glass plate on the top. The solar energy will be reaching to the collector plate and then reaching to the food product. Almost the direct solar energy will be reaching to the food product. So in this case also, the food product will be losing its natural color. So this problem is not solved in this direct solar drying. That's why the people identified the new setup called indirect solar drying. In the indirect solar drying, they are not keeping the food product by keeping the direct sunlight. The indirect solar drying, these are the chambers. See, these are the chambers, 1, 2, 3. 3 chambers are there. That means where the food products are kept, chambers, drying chambers. And these are the collector plates. The collector plates will be installed with particular inclination according to the longitude and latitude of the particular locations. So usually in India, we can take the inclination up to from 20 to 30 degree inclinations, because it depends upon the longitude and latitude of different places. Let's say in Warangal, we installed a plant with 30 degree inclination. So the difference between these three plants is, this is the collector plate, that the glass plates are installed in here. And this the fresh air will be entering through this collector inlet. So here there will be some gap will be there, almost 3-4 centimeter inlet gap will be there. The air will be entering inside, and the solar energy will be transmitted through the glass plates, and then the air entered inside the collector plate will be heated. Okay, that's why this plate is called a solar air heater. Solar air heater. And in this solar air heater, we are not keeping the food product. If you are keeping the food product in the solar air heater, then this direct solar dryer is almost the same of this one. If you are keeping the food product here, the food product will be losing its color. That's why initially the air will be heated, and then the air will be passed through the drying chamber where we are keeping the food product. So here the advantages is, the food product is not directly heated by the, or not directly exposed by the sunlight. So because of that, the color of the food product cannot be changed. Okay, so that's why this indirect solar drying is the advantageous one comparatively this OSD or open sun drying and this direct or cabinet solar drying apparatus. So this is one of the reasons this indirect solar drying is occupying a huge quantum of research. Even NIT Warangal also we developed a setup. Almost 10 to 15 Indian universities are doing the work on solar drying, and there are number of countries are doing this work, and there are number of papers on that. Okay, so because the reason is, it is highly advantageous about these two setups. And now we have to go with the need for solar drying. In rural locations, the grid connected electricity supply is unavailable, hence solar dryers are attractive. There were one of my friend who is working on Pondicherry University. developed a number of solar trays for farmers or poor farmers, because their electrical connectivity is not that much. So he developed a number of plants, solar dryers, which can dry up to 25 kg of food product. So such type of rural locations, these plants are usable one. From last few decades, the energy policy of the developing countries are changing due to shortage of fuel, propelling them towards the renewable energy, because it is abundantly available in the environment. Okay. Now we have to see the availability of the solar energy on the earth. You see, the earth receives almost 1,74,000 terawatt of incoming solar radiations. The 1 terawatt is almost 10 power 12 watt. You just imagine how much energy we are receiving in the earth. But the usable will be very less. Usage will be less than 1% only we are using on that. That's why this having a lot of scope on that, still we can extract a huge amount of solar energy and we can generate number of plants. Anyway, though this much amount of energy will be reaching to the ground, 30% is reflected back naturally, because it's a natural process. We cannot restrict on that. And the remaining is absorbed by clouds, oceans, and land masses. The most of the world's population live in these areas with insolation levels of 150 to 300 watt per meter square. Sometimes I told India is fortunately in a better position to get a good quantum of solar energy on the earth. You see, the average solar insolation which we are getting in the earth is 150 to 300 watt per meter square only, all over the world. Okay, but India's maximum insolation is around 1 to 19 watt per meter square. This is even more than that also, because this number we found in Warangal 1 year before. We measured the values and we found on that it is 1219 watt per meter square. Warangal is a very good place to extract a huge amount of solar energy. So the world average value is 150 to 300, but our value is maximum around is 1 to 19. So we are in a good position. So we can do much work on this solar energy process. So this is the dryer we have developed in NIT Warangal. So here this is the collector plate. The normal glass plates only kept on that, and bottom there is a copper plate is there. Copper plate. There were flat plates also, and there were corrugated plates. You can see in this picture it is a corrugated plate, like a triangular corrugations. Okay, so why we are keeping this corrugation is when the air is entering inside this inlet, when it is moving on the corrugations and when it is moving on the flat plate, there are two cases. The case one is the flat plate, the case two is the corrugation plates. We need to identify which one is better on that. So you can think about and then you can answer me in the text box. You can answer me which one can be better. Okay, the flat plate means the air will be entering and then the air will be heated in the solar air heater and then will be flowing through the inlet gap and then reaching to the drying chamber. Anyway, it will be taking the heat energy from the solar energy, and as well as the copper plate also will be absorbing some quantum of heat energy, and that will be delivered to the air itself. Okay, if you are keeping this corrugation plate, when the air will be entering, the air will be moving like a zigzag motion. Okay, or slightly a zigzag motion, and because of that, the turbulence level will be increased. If the turbulence level is increasing, automatically the heat transfer rate also increased here. So that is the advantage in this corrugated plants. But the corrugation, whatever we developed is triangular one. But there were number of corrugations are there. Even square type corrugations are there. And then like some curvature type corrugations, a long step corrugations. Okay, there were number of corrugations are there, number of studies also there. So we developed this triangle corrugation because we taken three setups and then optimized on that, and we found on that the triangle corrugation is giving better heat absorption capacity. That's why we used this triangle corrugations. So this is the collector plate. Okay, so here the first one is solar air collector, and then the bottom plate we are keeping copper plates. Why we are keeping the copper plates? That we wanted to know on that, because the heat energy will be transmitted through these glass plates, and then it is reaching to the copper plates or reaching to the bottom plate. If the bottom plate also used to absorb the heat energy, then sometimes when sunlight is not available properly, this absorbed heat energy can be used to heat the air. That's why we are using some plate here, but this plate also need to be optimized according to the properties of the plates. There were number of plates can be used, copper plates, aluminum plates, or even other metal plates, iron or steel iron. Number of plates can be used. It's based on the property called heat capacity. There were two properties, one is thermal conductivity and another one is heat capacity. The heat capacity of the copper plate is more comparatively aluminum, and then the heat capacity of gold is more, but we cannot use the gold plate because of the expensiveness. The heat capacity of the copper plate is somewhat reasonable, and then the price also, copper plate is high comparatively aluminum. So if someone is developing a plant, if the copper is not affordable, the setup or the budget whatever you have is less, then if the copper is not affordable, then you can go for the aluminum plates, because aluminum is the next next lower heat capacity characteristics. So we can use aluminum also, but in this case we have used copper plates, copper with the triangle corrugation plate. And then bottom we are using some insulations to avoid the heat loss. This we can use rock wool insulations, but this need to be properly designed first of all. Okay, maybe you studied the heat and mass transfer. I hope all the people are mechanical engineers. Maybe you studied a topic called insulation. In that topic, you know on that if the insulation is not proper, instead of a heat loss, instead of restricting the heat loss, the heat gain or heat loss will be increased. Okay, our objective is we need to reduce the heat loss, but sometimes the heat loss will be increased if the insulation is not proper. That's why we need proper design calculations. How much thickness of this rock wool insulation need to be made. Accordingly only you have to develop the setup. And then this black paint is provided on the top of the copper plate. Okay, why we are giving the black paint is the black paint have a special characteristic on that. Its absorptivity is more. Absorptivity of black paint is almost 0.85 to 0.9, which is one of the highest absorptivity of a material. That means it will absorb a maximum amount of solar energy on the absorber plate. That's why we are using this black paint. Anyway, these components are the solar collectors, and then next one is the chamber, drying chamber. In the drying chamber, you can keep 3 or 4 trays. In our setup, we are keeping 5 trays. 5 trays. Each tray we can keep almost 200 gram of food product. So it means that 1 kg food product can be dried here. And then in the top, the tray means it's almost like a plastic net type of tray. And then once the food product is dried, the hot air will be entering inside and then leaving through the chimney. There will be a chimney is there on the top. That means the food is losing its moisture, and that moisture will be eliminated through this chimney. So this is the solar dryers. So now we have to see on that how this computational fluid dynamics techniques will be used to run these systems, solar drying systems, because while we are developing particular systems, there were a number of parameters need to be optimized. that optimization sometimes by using handmade calculations cannot be done, or calculator calculations cannot be made. We need proper numerical simulations, and according to that only we can optimize a dimensions, and according to that you can make a setup. So therefore we have to see the main procedures involved in the CFD. The first one is apply the physical principles to a drawing problem. Let's say any problem, we have to apply the physical principle which is involving on the problem. So here also there is a heat transfer problem is there, mass transfer problem is there. The moisture will be eliminated. That means maybe moisture evaporation will be there. And then some other functions like surface tension, capillary force, desorption, adsorption. There were a number of physical concepts are involving. So we have to incorporate, you have to take care about all the physical principles. Okay, and then extract mathematical statements of flow through continuity, momentum, and energy equations. Initially, we should start with this type of governing equations, and then we have to incorporate the physical principles involving in the drawing problem need to be added, and then there is a chance we can finally take the mathematical statements. That means the final governing equations. Okay, the final governing equations need to be taken care. And the next one is the delineate the problem. Initially, we will be taking the basic governing equations, and then whatever I told the first line, we have to take care about the physical principles involved on that. Then sometimes you can take evaporation, adsorption, desorption, surface tension, radiation, shrinkage, etc. Okay, because all those parameters will be making some impact on the drawing problems. But incorporating all those parameters is not at all possible, because even if you write a computer code, three-dimensional computer code, it will be taking almost 2,000 or 3,000 lines, because my computer code is almost 2,800 lines. But I could add only one term, evaporation term. If you're adding the further terms, then the computer code will be very complicated, and then discretization procedures also tough. Sometimes the problem cannot be solvable with the existing computing facility. Maybe nowadays we have a very good facilities and we can try such type of problems. Recently we solved one problem on effect of radiation and effect of shrinkage. That is also three-dimensional problem, but we have got some good information on these simulations. So the next one is incorporate the appropriate boundary and initial conditions. That everyone will know on that. Whenever we will be solving heat and mass transfer equations, we need to select appropriate boundary conditions and initial conditions. And then the select appropriate numerical method and discretization techniques. And finally, the governing equations need to be solved. Okay, so the problem what we solved is, there were a number of other procedures were involved, because whenever we will be solving the problem, the food is heated and then it is losing the moisture. Therefore, there is one important parameter that is called heat transfer coefficient. H is one of the important parameter that need to be assumed or that need to be estimated. Okay, but we have to get the idea, if it is assumed, then what may be the problem of in your numerical code. If you are estimating, what may be the accuracy of the solutions. Actually, we found on that, one of our paper estimated on that, if you are assuming a constant heat transfer coefficient, the errorness will be increasing up to 35%. Okay, that's why, anyway, that type of assumptions can be useful only for the BTech level problems. If you go for a MTech level projects or a PhD projects, better this H value need to be estimated. So that's why we have estimated this H value with the help of CFD simulation. So we have modeled a domain, experimental domain, through the Fluent software. Sorry, ANSYS ICM software. And then the simulations were run using Fastest 3D, one more CFD software. But anyway, it's not only fastest 3D. There were number of softwares are there, like Fluent is there, ANSYS ICM CFD, another one tool, and then ANSYS CFX, not ANSYS CFX, it is CFX alone, and then OpenFOAM, and there were number of tools are there, number of CFD tools are there, we can solve it. But here, the H value need to be estimated with the help of this CFD simulations. Once these H values are determined, you can go for solving the heat and mass transfer equations. Then we can find the temperature and moisture distribution of the food product. Okay, so we need any one of the computer code, not all the computer code, Fortran, C or C++ or MATLAB or anything, Python or whatever it is. So while taking the computer code, you no need to worry about that computer code or this computer code. If you know any one of the computer code, that itself is enough to solve the problem. Even if you're working on industry, sometimes the computer code, the nature of the comments and everything almost the same. So if you studied the Fortran, then you can write computer code in C also after spending some time. Similarly, C++ also almost the same, MATLAB also almost the same. The advantages with MATLAB is there were number of subroutines are available, or sometimes even if you wanted to solve a 5x5 matrix, that algorithm is already there, readily available in the MATLAB. That's why the MATLAB is highly advantageous, but still, if you know any one of the code, that is better. So I have written my code in Fortran 9D in 10 years before. So this is the food product I kept in inside a tunnel, inside a rectangle tunnel. And the food product is assumed as a rectangle object, and then the air is sent through the open air. And these are the continuity, momentum, and energy equations we solved. And finally, we got the temperature profile inside the tunnel. You can see here, the inlet temperature is 333 Kelvin. The inlet temperature is 333 Kelvin, and then the food product is kept here. The hot air will be entering to the left side and then leaving to the right side. The food product is exposed to that hot air. That means it is heated and then it is losing the moisture. So now we are not seeing the moisture here, but the temperature profile you could able to see here. So here it is 330. All the red portions are 332 Kelvin or 333 Kelvin approximately. And you can find there where the profile will be somewhat wavy nature here. But yeah, this is for airflow velocity 2 meters per second. If the airflow velocity is increased to 4 meters and 6 meters, the flow is somewhat stable and we are getting a stable results on that. But depends upon the applications, we can pick any of the air velocity. And then this is the air velocity distribution inside the tunnel. So this is for 2 meters per second, and this is for 4 meters per second, and this is for 6 meters per second. The 2 meters per second is slightly in a fluctuating mode, but the 4 and 6 meters per second is almost not fluctuating, and as well as it's almost producing a symmetric profile. So now this heat transfer coefficient is already estimated through the CFD simulations, because in this surface we are giving one boundary condition that is called the convective boundary conditions. Convective boundary conditions you already know on that, minus Ka into dt by dx equal to HA into T minus T infinitive. So all the properties were already given, so we can easily estimate the H values. So through that we have got the H values, but it's a three-dimensional object. It is a three-dimensional object. That's why we estimated the heat transfer coefficient on all the different surfaces. You see the heat transfer coefficient of the rectangle object on the left surface, and then it is plotted. This is on the right surface, and this is on the bottom, top, and then as well as front and rear surface.
Sir, there is a question from Dr. Amit Kumar.
Okay.
So his question is comparative study of emerging rooftop photovoltaic for urban greenery.
Okay. Photovoltaic.
Yes, sir. Comparative study of
He-
emerging rooftop photovoltaic
Okay.
for urban greenery. So
Okay. I don't know
he
what is
is
the question
asking
in
about.
that. I don't know what is the question actually. In the chat box, it is there. Huh? Yeah,
Yes,
hello,
sir.
I am
Yes, sir.
Dr.
Yes, sir.
Amit Kumar, Associate. Okay. But yeah, what is the question is not mentioned. Anyway, later we can discuss about the same thing. What may be his question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then. So here we are estimating the heat transfer coefficient on different surfaces. Okay, but see the values here. The values when we are taking about the surface, left-hand surface, the values are almost from 80 to 50 watt per meter square Kelvin. Okay, in the surface facing outlet, the values are the maximum value is around 45 and minimum is around 10 watt per meter square Kelvin. What may be the difference here? The reason is the food product is kept here and here we are sending the hot air. The hot air will be getting much exposure on the left hand surface comparatively compared to the right hand surface. That is one of the reason. The left hand surface, the heat transfer coefficient is much more from 50 to 85 or 80. But here it is only 10 to 50 only, 10 to 45 only. Okay. And then if you are taking the bottom and top surfaces, it's almost giving a similar, almost all the four surfaces are, the variations are, the heat transfer coefficient variation is with the same range. But here we found the maximum range is around 200 watt per meter square Kelvin. And other all the values are less than 50 watt per meter square Kelvin. Here and here also. Okay, the reason one can imagine on that here, when the food product is kept here, 3D object is kept here, this front surface, rear surface, top surface and bottom surface, almost getting the similar quantum of exposure of hot air. No, it's reasonable. That is one of the reason we are getting a similar quantum of heat transfer coefficient on all the four surfaces. So now the conclusion from this four chart is, previously I told if you are assuming a constant heat transfer coefficient of 10 or 15 watt per meter square Kelvin for the problem, then you can imagine here the values are varying for different surfaces and how it is varying from. It's starting from 10, not 10, even sometimes 8 watt per meter square Kelvin to 200 watt per meter square Kelvin. And this much surface variations is noted on that. So this is one of the reasons we found on that such type of approximations should not be done for a research problems. Okay, so these real values must be incorporated in your numerical solutions and then only we have to solve the drying problems. Okay, so this is heat transfer coefficient and then the next one is mass transfer coefficient. Mass transfer coefficient. The heat transfer coefficient, sorry, this mass transfer coefficient also estimated from the heat transfer coefficient. That's why the profile is almost the same, but the values are different. Values are in terms of meter per seconds. The values are, the maximum value is around 0.13 to the minimum value is around 0.01 meter per second. So you just see the unit of this mass transfer coefficient. From this unit, we can understand this term is almost like a velocity term only. The physical meaning is almost a mass transfer with respect to time. Okay, that is a meter per seconds. So now, yeah, once you get the heat transfer coefficient, then we can estimate the temperature and moisture distributions if you're solving the heat transfer equation and solving the mass transfer equations. Maybe you remember in your heat and mass transfer course, the mass transfer equation is almost parallel to heat transfer equations. It is true. That's why this is the heat transfer equation and this is the mass transfer equations. Instead of T, I have used M. Instead of alpha, alpha is the thermal diffusivity. Instead of alpha, I am using the D, capital D, that is diffusion coefficient. mass diffusion coefficient, otherwise mass diffusivity. So these two equations are parallel. This is one of the reasons the heat transfer is taught much, but mass transfer is not taught much in your UG. The reason is the mass transfer is also almost similar to heat transfer only. You no need to study all the case again. Okay, so now if you wanted to solve these two equations, I already told we need boundary conditions and initial conditions. Boundary conditions and initial conditions, and I sometimes told we need to select the appropriate boundary conditions. The boundary condition we selected is the convective boundary condition here. That is minus k into dou t by dou x equal to h into t minus t infinity. The normal basic equations in your heat and mass transfer equation. Okay, so these conditions only incorporated on the surface of the food product, and through that only I could able to estimate these h values and hm values in this picture. Okay, so now you already estimated the h value, and then this h value need to be estimated, given as the input to this boundary conditions, and then only you can able to solve this expression. Okay, this T and this T is almost same temperatures only, unknown temperatures. This need to be estimated. And similarly here also, this is the mass transfer equation and this is the mass transfer boundary condition. Instead of K, I am using capital D. D into dou by dou x equal to Hm into m minus m infinity. Hm is equal to mass transfer coefficient. Okay, mass transfer coefficient. Therefore, these two Hm must be incorporated here, and then these two equations need to be solved. And then the initial condition what it is, I have taken T at time 0 is equal to TA, a constant value. It's maybe 320 or 315 Kelvin can be given. And master also, the initial master we already know on that can be given. Okay, so now I have put the equation for all the 6 surfaces. Since it's a 3-dimensional object, we need 6 boundary conditions. And then the problematic in this equation is, this equation can be solved. If you write a computer code, sometimes in a Fortran, if you write 400 or 500 line computer code, you can solve this expression alone, the first one. Or if you write a MATLAB code, you can write up to a 100 line code and you can solve the problem, solve this equation. But here, the problem is a non-linear solution. The reason is, this D, the diffusion coefficient is not given. That also we are estimating, and then we are solving this M equation, mass equations. This D is equal to function of temperature. This diffusion coefficient is equal to function of temperature. That is this expression called Arrhenius equations. D is equal to D naught into exponential of minus 999 by T. This is the equations mostly used for drying applications. Therefore, this, if you wanted to estimate this D, then we need the temperature value first of all. Therefore, once you estimate the temperature, and then that temperature need to be substituted here, and then only we can estimate the mass transfer solutions. So now, this heat transfer equation and mass transfer equations must be solved simultaneously. Then only finally the temperature and moisture distributions solutions we can get on that. Okay, and naturally also when the food product is dried, the food product is initially heated and then it is losing its moisture. Okay, so the heating and the moisture transfer is almost like taking place parallelly or simultaneously. So that reality need to be reflected in this equation also. That reality must be reflected in these equations, in this solution procedures. That's why here the heat energy equations and the mass equations were solved simultaneously, and then the solution will be achieved at final. There were some assumptions were given, and the solution procedures were given, and some discretization procedure is given based on the finite volume method. Maybe you already aware about on that. And finally, we could be able to get the profile on that. So this is the temperature profile inside the rectangle food product. The food product which we have chosen is 4 into 2 into 2 centimeters. It's a rectangle piece, rectangle potato slice, 4 into 2 into 2 centimeter. And in that case, we are taking one middle distance, Z directions, we are taking the middle slice. Middle slice, what is the temperature distributions we could able to see here at different time. See at T is equal to 0.167 hour. 0.167 hour means 0.167 hour. It's maybe 20 minutes. Huh? Six not 1 divided by 60. 10 minutes. Okay, so it's for T is equal to 10 minutes. First 10 minutes, what is the temperature profile? T is equal to 0.5 hour. 0.5 hour means 30 minutes. 30 minutes, what is the profile? So I will be coming back within 1 minute. Okay, so through the CFD simulations, we could be able to get this temperature profile at for different times. 0.1, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, and then 2.5 hour. You see, the temperature profiles, the temperature values are increasing with respect to time. Okay, so while we are keeping a food product and then we are giving a constant temperature air of 333 Kelvin, yeah, the air temperature is 333 Kelvin, then immediately the food product is not heated. It is gradually heated. It is taking almost 2.5 hours to reach approximately 333 Kelvin. Initially, it is 306 Kelvin. The minimum temperature is 306. At 30 minutes, the temperature is increased to 322. And then it is 330 at 1 hour, and at 2.5 hour only it's able to get a steady state inside the domain or the object. Okay, this is for 2 meters per seconds. Yeah, this is the moisture distributions. Moisture distributions at the different times at 1.5 hour, 5 hour, 10 hour, and then the last one is 15 hour. Okay, 15 hours. So at 1.5 hour, the food product is dried according to only. The initial moisture content is almost 4.7 kg per kg of dry basis. Initially it is dried, but the maximum moisture content existing is around 4.5 kg per kg of dry basis at 1.5 hour. When the drying time is increased at 5 hour, the moisture content is reduced to 4 kg per kg of dry basis. And then at 10 hour, it is 2.6 kg per kg of dry basis. At 15 hour, it is taking 1.5 kg per kg of dry basis. Okay, this is for the airflow velocity of 2 meters per second. So why this type of CFD solutions is needed is the industry expecting the approximate drying time for a particular food product. Okay, they wanted to know on that up to how much times they have to use the energy, or if they know starting itself, okay, if you need to dry this much products, then we need 15 hours. Then accordingly, they will allot the manpower. They will make ready the energy provisions. If it's a solar dryers, and then they will design the setup accordingly. That's why these type of CFD solutions are much essential for them. So this is the way the CFD will be helping to the industries to make their own setup. So similarly, even I have the solution for 4 meters per second and 6 meters per second. I didn't show here the temperature profile and moisture profile. And then here you can see the effect of drying velocity, the temperature distribution on different velocities. At V is equal to 2 meters per second, the temperature is around 316 Kelvin. It is increased to 321.5 Kelvin at 4 meters per second. At 6 meters per second, it is giving 326.5 Kelvin. Okay, the temperature is always increasing when the airflow velocity is increasing. The reason is the heat transfer coefficient is increasing when the velocity is increasing. This is the mass transfer coefficient. At a 2 meter per second at a particular time 10 hour, the maximum moisture content existing in the food product is 2.6. It is reduced to 1.2, and here also it is reduced to 1.13 something, but it is rounded to 1.2. Okay, like that, the CFD solutions were useful to the industries, and then accordingly they are designing their experimental setup and then making their drying process. So similarly, that is a rectangle object, and now if you go for a one-dimensional spherical object, how the solutions looks like. Okay, so this is the one-dimensional equations, and similar case, since it's a one-dimensional unsteady state, we need two boundary conditions. That's why the two boundary conditions were given, and one initial condition is already given. The similar way, the equations were discretized, and then the solutions can be achieved. This is for one-dimensional spherical object, and this is for two-dimensional spherical object, and this is for two-dimensional rectangular and cylindrical objects. We done almost all the cases. All the three geometrical objects we already solved, and then the works were already published. So I didn't go to the detailed equations, whatever I mentioned here. So these are the final solutions. So you can find the temperature variations within the food product with the different times. Initially, the initial temperature is around 303 Kelvin. And then when the time is increasing to 600 seconds, 1200 seconds, 1800 seconds, the temperature of the food product is gradually increasing. And then here you can see the moisture content of the food product is gradually decreasing. Okay, it's during the drying process, the food product will be losing its moisture. Therefore, moisture content always will be reducing. So you can see on that here that the temperature will be gradually, when the temperature is increasing, the drying time also decreasing. Okay, the air temperature will be increasing, then the drying time also increasing. So that observation also you can see here. Yeah, this is one of the important solution here. Let's say if the food product is having 100% moisture, then it needs to be reduced to 30% moisture. 30% moisture. Then for a particular temperature, how much time is needed? That analysis be done for different temperatures. For example, let's see the first one is, the last one is 348 Kelvin. This line is 348 Kelvin. If it's a 348 Kelvin and then the moisture content is reduced to up to 30% of the moisture content, then we need to dry the food product up to 6000 seconds. 6000 seconds. 6000 seconds means 6000, almost 2 hours. In almost 1.667 or 1.7 hours. Or otherwise 1 hour 45 minutes approximately. Okay, so within that one can reduce the moisture content up to 30 kg per kg of dry basis or 30%, and as well as the drying time 30%, and then the temperature is 348 Kelvin. So like that we have done different analysis, and then we could estimate the drying time required for the particular product. So this is for a spherical objects, but at a two-dimensional code. Two-dimensional code means we can see the circle that we are assuming this is a slice, and this is the temperature distribution of the food product. The temperature distributions are non-dimensional temperature distributions. That's why the values are in 0.75, 0.71 like that. So this is the moisture distributions. These are the properties we have taken to solve the problem. I think the product is, we solved for potato, apple, yeah, this was apple. And then we solved for green peas also, green peas. This is for a rectangle object. Okay, I simply move forward with the solutions. So you can also generate such type of solutions. Okay. So the next one is the solar drying. Sometimes I told if you are keeping this triangle corrugations, or if you are keeping the square corrugations, how the problem can be solved with the help of CFD, and which one can be recommended. Okay, so here my students solved two problems with triangle corrugations as well as square corrugations. Here I elaborately presenting the square corrugations, and we found on that, see, whenever the air is flowing through the square corrugations, if you see on that, the zoomed portion is mentioned here, the air will be coming and then will be interacting with the corner portion of the collector plate, observer plate, and then it is moving like that. Okay, this is the first square. If it's if you're taking the second square also like that, third square also like that. So every square, there will be a zigzag motions will be formed, then the turbulent motions will be formed. This is one of the reason the higher heat transfer rate will be taken place. That's why the corrugations will be helping to absorb a huge amount of heat energy from the solar energy. These dimensions of these plates were already mentioned in our paper. I didn't mention here. So anyway, we solved this square plate and as well as triangle plates, and we identified on that the triangle plates are better, and that's why we made the setup with the triangular corrugations. And the next one is the effect of roughened surface. Even if you are making these triangles, the triangle also has some particular angle. If it's a flat surface, if it's a triangle surface, then what may be the answer? This is the flat surface, and this is the angle with the 10 degree, and this is the angle of 15 degree and 20 degree. We couldn't change much difference, but at the same time, the air will be perfectly mixed inside the chamber. That we could able to get on that. This is one of the inconclusive solutions, because we are not getting proper answers, but still we can say on that the air mixing, the hot air mixing inside the dryer will be very perfect. Therefore, the food product will be easily uniformly dried throughout the chamber. Okay. So here also you can see this is the temperature distribution, and this is the velocity distribution. I think, yeah, this is velocity and this is the temperature. You can see on that theta is equal to 20 degree, the mixing is somewhat better comparatively here, because the blue portions will be somewhat less here. Okay, so the next system is solar updraft tower. I don't think I have time or not. I will explain what is the principle of the solar updraft tower and how the CFD solutions were used to run this solar updraft tower. The solar updraft tower is one of the very simple plant with the minimum movable things, and it could produce very clean energy with the help of the solar energy. Okay, so very long distance locations like a desert area or like a long seashore areas, such type of area, or very rural areas, such type of areas will be fitted for the solar updraft tower. Here we are keeping the collector plates with a particular angle, depends upon the latitude and longitude of the particular locations, and then this is the bottom ground. Okay, and we are providing proper space for air entering inside, and then in the top we are keeping a chimney. Okay, so the air will be entering inside, the collector plate will be collecting the solar energy and then heating the air inside on that. Therefore, the air inside the system will be heated, and outside air will be fresh air, will not be heated that much, because the solar collector will be collecting the temperature up to sometimes 70 degrees Celsius inside the setup. The normal air temperature is 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, but it could see the temperature inside the setup is around 70 degrees Celsius. You cannot imagine that much temperature difference is created by the setup. So outside is 30 degrees Celsius air, inside is 70 degrees Celsius air. So when we are heating the air, the density will be decreased. Density will be decreased inside, and but outside air, the higher density air will be there. So here there is a higher density, and here there is a low density. And always this the lower density air always will be moving towards top. Okay, whenever we will be mixing two fluids with high temperature and low temperature fluid, the high temperature fluid will be lower density. Then the lower density will be always on the top. That's why the lower density hot air will be always moving to the top. Therefore, the higher density air will be ended inside. The air will be the fresh air will be again heated, and then the natural draft is taken place on the chimney. So you cannot imagine, if the plant is perfectly designed, you can generate up to 15 to 20 meter per second air velocity near the inside the chimney. It is enough to run the turbine here. Okay, so naturally the air is taken here, the air is heated by natural solar energy, and then naturally the draft is created, and a fan or a turbine will be rotated, and from the turbine we can generate the power. This is the concept of the solar updraft tower. But the problem is we need a very big area, because the collector area itself, we need 5 to 10 kilometers diameters area. You just imagine 5 to 10 kilometers diameter area. Okay, then only the plant can be work fine. The real plant already generated in the France, Manzanares, Spain, I think, Spain, Manzanares, having the chimney height of 194 meters. You just imagine a chimney is constructed for 194 meters. It is tough to construct such type of things, but if you put the initial investment once, then we can generate free power, very clean energy, without disturbing the environment. Okay, there were one setup already developed in NIT Warangal. It is already installed in my laboratory, solar energy laboratory. And then there were a number of theories were given, types of solar updraft tower is given. So how this SUT, or that solar updraft tower, can be solved using the CFD. That also we solved almost, we published almost 15 papers on the solar updraft tower. The total papers itself up to approximately 100 only. So we are doing good on this particular topic. Still, there are a lot of work need to be done. We are doing fine. So I don't think so we can explain further. So these are the tools we have used: ANSYS ICM CFD for modeling, Fastest 3D, Fluent for flow analysis, TechPlot. The first analysis works were done by TechPlot, and Minitab and DataFit is used for curve fitting program, and the programming tools used for Fortran and MATLAB. Anyway, so thank you. If any questions, you please allow the participants to ask the questions.
Thank you, sir. So one question from Amit Kumar.
Okay.
What are the capabilities the student version of ANSYS offers, and what are its limitations?
Yeah, student version, if you don't have the institute version is better, because nowadays they are asking up to 20 lakhs price, 20 lakhs rupees price. But sometimes the student version can be purchased within 10 lakhs or even less than that. The limitation is maximum we can go up to 4 to 5 lakhs grid, 4 to 5 lakhs grid, and we can solve the problem. So if the problem having more than 5 lakhs, then sometimes it is unusable, or we cannot use on that. And another problem is there are some of the advanced problems. There are some icons were disabled in the student version. Okay, that means those answers we cannot retrieve on that. Student version means it's only for running some assignment problems for your laboratory, and then you can use on that. But still, one cannot purchase a full version, the institute version, but institute can purchase. Institute can purchase one single version, and then you can use the student version for running the remaining simulations with the small grids. Yeah, anything?
Okay, sir. If any other participants have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can write in the chat box.
Okay, if no questions, you please interact with me through this contact details. Whenever you will be getting them. Better mail is better. I can reply your mail. Okay, na?
Okay. Thank you, sir. It was really informative to know about solar drying and the computational fluid dynamics simulations required for that, and what are the needs for computational fluid dynamics simulations on solar drying. Thank you for sharing the details, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I also thank the organizers, Dr. Mades, and then this head of the department, Professor Dr. R. Karthikeyan, and your Vice Chancellor, Dr. Thiruvasagam. Thank you to all.